got to draft better next year instead of going for all Colts players.
Well, you know how every fantasy player does in their first season.
I did the same thing. I had Jordy Nelson.
Yeah.
I had like a full, and then on bye week I was like, what the hell am I gonna do?
All right. I'm sorry. Get back to your waiver wire pickups.
We rabbit holed the shit out of that. Bye.
I just excavated the shit out of that rabbit hole. Dillon,
Sorry, Dillon.
Sorry, buddy.
I tell you, you too.
We're terrible.
So, yeah.
I'm muting my mic so I can't do this to you again.
Thank God.
So, yeah, obviously keep yourself posted on Devonta Freeman's injury so that way you can really determine how much to spend on Brian Hill this week. He's a guy who, going up against Carolina, who's a bottom-half defense, I know you two Packers fans just personally saw what can be done against the Carolina Panthers on the ground. So, Brian Hill, popular waiver wire pickup. Another running back, a guy I was, maybe a little too early. I had to carry him through the bye week, but Darius Geis set to make his return next week. I'm a little skeptical going into the first week with him back, just because, he came out week 1 of the season, had 10 carries, and then got injured. So now it's like, they're either going to manage his workload with Adrian Peterson, or they're only going to give him a few carries anyway just to get his feet wet. I don't think you can necessarily plug Darius Geis in this week, but going down the line, he could be a pretty good pickup for your team. Going into, let's do one more running back because Ty Johnson did leave the game with a concussion. I'm not sure if he's going to be cleared for this week. So going up against the Dallas Cowboys, J.D. McKissic becomes an interesting option in PPR leagues only. Moving on to wide receivers, Demaryius Thomas. He's nothing exciting at this point in his career. He's certainly not the Denver Bronco. He's certainly not the only winners get wings Demaryius Thomas that we knew from back in the day. But right now, I would trust Demaryius Thomas a lot more than I trust Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson has had two fantastic matchups right now against the Miami Dolphins and the New York Giants, and he has 3 catches to show for it between those 2 games. Just disgusting. Demaryius Thomas, although he's not a burner downfield, is someone that clearly Sam Darnold trusts on the intermediate routes. So someone you could maybe play as a wide receiver 3 to help your team going forward. Mentioned Darius Slayton. Now the Giants are going into a bye week. Sterling Shepard will likely be able to return. But if not, you saw what Slayton can do. 10 catches, $128, 2 touchdowns. So Sterling Shepard does not return to your lineup, then Darius Slayton is a guy you can pick up. I know you did something maniacal with Dave. I'm just not sure what. Oh, wow.
Oh, the horns came out on me. He'll be back once he figures it out.
Did you shadow ban him or just straight up ban him?
I was messing with him, muting the thing, and I hit the wrong button. It kicked him out of the call. He's all messaging me all mad.
Oh, there he is. Very discontent. Dave, I tried to tell him, you're not feeling good. You're not in the mood for this. He wouldn't listen to me.
Yeah, Dillon's right.
He didn't say anything.
Check your text, Jay.
I already checked my texts. You are. I didn't really mean to kick you off. I was actually fucking with you, muting you, and you kept unmuting me to hit the wrong button. And I started to laugh immediately. It was very distracting to Dillon.
As we continue with some waiver wire wide receivers, you've got the 2 guys on Pittsburgh Steelers. Pick your poison. At this point, it seems like Mason Rudolph is a little more comfortable with James Washington than he is Deontay Johnson, but they both seem to be alternating productive weeks. McCole Hardman is a trap to me. If you love him, if you're feeling risky, pick him up because you're hoping for one play a game. that he just takes to the house. Auden Tate is interesting because he's more than likely owned in your leagues, but Tyler Boyd left this game with a knee injury. We know about A.J. Green. We know about John Ross. So it's getting to the point where you have Alex Erickson and Auden Tate. So Tate's someone who, if somehow he's available in your league, you got to pick him up. D.D. Westbrook is another guy who more than likely owned in your league, but since they were on bye, since he's been banged up, D.D.'s a guy that you should be picking up. Moving into tight ends is where it gets kind of tricky. A lot of people are high on Dallas Goedert this week, and I just don't know. I mean, you're facing that New England defense that, yeah, they're more than likely going to scheme Ertz out of it. So I think that's why people are high on Goddard, because he's going to have one-on-one opportunities. I don't know. He's the same as every other tight end, really. I mean, aside from Kelsey and, Austin Hooper before his injury, you're just hoping for your guy to get a touchdown. I mean, no tight end has really been putting up big yardage this year to speak of. So if you can throw Kyle Rudolph in there for a touchdown, if you can throw Dallas Goedert in there, the guy I'm a little higher on right now, thanks to his performance last week, and I realized most of the yardage came off of one pass, but Noah Fant just had 115 yards and a touchdown. He's their first-round pick from this year, and they have to want to get him more involved. So Noah Fant is a guy. If you're hurting,
but do you really think it continues, though?
I wouldn't bank on it, but you could do worse. I mean, you want Noah Fant or Tyler Eifert, right? You want Noah Fant or Jonnu Smith. Noah Fant or
Jonnu Smith.
Do?
Okay. Yes. I love Jonnu Smith with Tannehill. He's been targeting him a lot. I just don't know how Brandon Allen's going to be that consistent.
All right. Well, what about Noah Fant or Eifert?
Noah Fant. I don't have faith in Eifert because I feel like if you even mention his name, he just falls apart. He's like Humpty Dumpty. He really is.
Well, I guess that moves us into Jay's segment where he wants to talk about guys to trade for and trade away.
Did you do players?
I guess drop Robbie Anderson right now.
I know there's a few players out there that you're pissed at. You tell them to get off the team. I dropped Shepard this week. I dropped MVS. There's got to be some other defenses and other things. I mean, MVS is definitely, and Shepard is still in concussion protocol, for God's sakes, for like 4 weeks. So,
there's no one you should drop, but certainly guys that you do not have to start the way you would have felt you had to earlier in the season. I mean, you certainly do not have to start Juju. You certainly do not have to start Jared Goff. Guys like them become very matchup dependent at this point in the season. So those are guys who they can hit the pine, man. Just take a seat. I don't want you sticking up my roster anymore. Same with Odell. I mean, until we see it, which might come in a few games because they do have some pretty decent matchups coming down the stretch. But, take a seat, Odell. I don't want your crappy games anymore when I can plug in someone like Devontae Parker and get better results.
All right, we can go to the trade stuff now.
Yeah, like you were talking about earlier, it's an interesting point in the season. Trade deadlines have approached for most leagues, but not all. So at this point in the season, if you're going to try to make a trade that is not going to completely blow up your team, I mean, I saying his name over and over again sounds weird because Devontae Parker has been a dud for his entire career, and he's been on a dud team. But I'm telling you, this guy has a great couple of games down the stretch, and if the Dolphins do not put Rosen in, Ryan Fitzpatrick and Devontae Parker have a connection. Parker has had more than 50 yards for the past 4 games. I don't believe he scored a touchdown this past week, but he's got 4 on the year. So Devontae Parker's a guy that you could, I don't know, maybe you could trade a Robbie Anderson for. Maybe you could trade a Golden Tate for. I'm not sure you would want to. Golden Tate's having a pretty good season to this point. But, I mean, you know what I mean. Like, with Devontae Parker, he's a name where you don't have to give up the farm to get him, and he's going to be valuable down the stretch. So that's a guy I like a lot. And at this point, I'll say the same for Austin Eckler. Like, Eckler's role has decreased, which we all expected once Melvin Gordon came back into the fold. But you know what? He's still getting his PPR points, and he had 12 rushes last week, and that was with Melvin Gordon in the game getting 20 carries. So I think Austin Eckler's another guy who you can find the Austin Eckler owner. He's disappointed. He's feeling bummed, and he wants a stud running back to replace the running back production he was getting out of Eckler. So let's say you have a Freeman, right? A guy who's banged up right now, but who could come back and is a big name. Maybe you trade Devonta Freeman for Eckler plus. Maybe you trade Joe Mixon for Eckler plus. Someone like that. Because obviously, Mixon's not going to sustain these type of numbers the way the Bengals are going this year. But Eckler's a guy you should also be looking to trade for. So I like Eckler. I like Devontae Parker. And the name that I actually didn't get to bring up on waiver wires, which I'm very disappointed in myself as an Eagles fan, Nick Foles, set to make his return, first game back in his debut, and this is going to be a good one, taking on Miami. So, I mean, you really couldn't ask for a better matchup right away when you're coming back, aside from the Bengals, obviously, for Nick Foles. So, going back to the waiver wires, check your waivers for Nick Foles if you are streaming quarterbacks. The Jaguars, I talked about Fournette as a trading target for weeks now because of their fantastic schedule down the stretch. They play, I believe it's Oakland week 15 and then Atlanta week 16. So those are right in the thick of your championship run there. Nick Foles is another part of that Jaguars offense. He's a guy that you should be looking to pick up if you've been streaming quarterbacks. But yeah, Eckler and Devontae Parker are guys I like at this point in the season. And like I said, not because they are lighting up the scoreboard, so to speak, because at this point, if you're making a run toward the playoffs, you don't want to trade all these valuable pieces to your team that's gotten you this far. So if you can do a 1-for-1 or even 2 crappy players for one of these guys, then I love Eckler, I love Parker, and you know what? Maybe even I love Jacob Hollister after last night. I'm not sure. But if you're the Austin Hooper owner, I'll take Jacob Hollister.
Hooper was a farce. Knew it was coming to an end sooner or later.
You know who is tied for Austin Hooper as far as tight end touchdowns this year? Darren Fells of the Houston Texans.
Yeah, sneaky, underrated season he's having.
Another waiver wire pickup I did not mention. Shame on me. So, guys, let's discuss it. Is there anyone, I believe, Jay, you said we're not past the deadline yet. I thought we were. Is there anyone that you've had your eyes on, Jay and Dave, as far as trading or guys you would give advice to trade for? Maybe it's someone on the Packers, maybe not.
Not really, because with Adams coming back, there's really no other receiver there that makes you really jump out as a number 2. There's a combination of wide receivers, but there's no way you can have that. So I wouldn't say yes to that.
What about, okay, so Aaron Jones has had stellar performances on top of ghostly performances. Would you trade Aaron Jones for Fournette straight up?
If you're getting Fournette, yeah.
If you're the Fournette owner and someone's offering you Aaron Jones plus, like you need a tight end, you had Austin Hooper, they're offering you Aaron Jones and Jacob Hollister for Leonard Fournette.
No. Because Jones can score you 26 to 50 in 1 week, and then he'll give you 3 the next.
Oh, no, exactly.
And here's the problem. That's why I got rid of Jones and got Adams. Because even in a PPR league especially, Adams is going to get consistent targets. Even if he doesn't get touchdowns, he scored, I believe, 16 points for me. He had 117 yards on 7 receptions. You know, like